We begin with President Trump's authoritarian ambitions. In an exclusive new interview with the Daily Caller, Trump was asked whether he'd be comfortable seeing former FBI Director James Comey and former CIA Director John Brennan arrested live on television as part of his administration's new focus on the Russia election interference investigation. His response would not bother me at all. That attitude, punishing perceived enemies while rewarding devotees, is exactly what we're seeing across the federal government. At the Centers for Disease Control, Trump has already installed a new hand-picked loyalist, a business investor with no medical training, to replace a career scientist to run your nation's top public health agency. Then there's the Federal Reserve, where emergency hearings are underway right now after Trump's attempt to oust Fed Board Governor Lisa Cook over alleged mortgage fraud, even though she has not been charged with any crime. But the aim is clear: get her out so he can put in a loyalist. And that's become Trump's playbook across the government, forcing out officials at the CIA, the Department of Transportation, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, institutions where nonpartisanship is essential to what they do. It's their lifeblood. Trump is also ramping up his war on blue cities, manufacturing crisis after crisis as a means to seize more power. In addition to National Guard deployments, Trump is threatening new immigration crackdowns in Boston and Chicago using agents from ICE and Border Patrol, agencies whose budget Trump tripled this year. And if you're wondering how far he intends to take this, well, folks, here's your president in his own words.
So the line is that I'm a dictator, but I stop crime. So a lot of people say, you know, if that's the case, I'd rather have a dictator. But I'm not a dictator. I have the right to do anything I want to do. I'm the president of the United States. If I think our country's in danger, and it is in danger in these cities, I can do it. They say, we don't need him. Freedom, freedom. He's a dictator. He's a dictator. A lot of people are saying maybe we like a dictator.
Joining us now, Executive Chair of the Democracy Defenders Fund and former White House ethics czar under President Obama, Norm Eisen, former federal prosecutor and MSNBC legal analyst Joyce Vance, and former DHS Chief of Staff during Donald Trump's first term and author of Blowback, Miles Taylor. Miles, I want to start with you because the president saying, I have the right to do anything I want to do, I'm the president of the United States, should be ringing off alarm bells for more than just us at this table and at home on this panel. It feels like that's not happening. What do you think is going on?
Incredibly, Eugene, I think people still aren't taking him seriously, but we saw him make the same comments 5 years ago. I mean, during the COVID pandemic, we all remember when Donald Trump said, you know, when you are the president of the United States, the authority is total, and that's the way it's got to be. And his allies at the time said, well, look, it's just a figure of speech. He's just joking. We've been saying that for far too long. Donald Trump is not joking. And, you know, even with this interview with the Daily Beast about Comey and Brennan, I don't know if he's going to try to arrest Comey and Brennan. He is going to try to arrest his enemies, though. He is under withering pressure to do that. And whether you think he's got cases or he doesn't have cases, to him, it does not matter. He has to put people in handcuffs. At least in his mind, that's what he thinks has to happen. But it's so much bigger than that. I mean, the revenge, Eugene, as you already noted, extends to people's cities. It extends to their money. He's going into places like Chicago. If he pushes Lisa Cook out of the Fed, it's just a step away from him fully taking over the Fed. And I think a lot of Americans don't understand what that actually means. But we have a really, really clear playbook of what happens when a would-be authoritarian takes over monetary policy in a country. And it typically results in runaway inflation, increase in the price of goods, destabilization of the economy, and capital flight. People will stop investing in the United States, the U.S. dollar will suffer, and your average American will see their savings account become worthless. That's what it means, and that's why people need to realize Trump's revenge campaign is not some abstract thing that doesn't affect them.
I do want to stay on the topic of Lisa Cook for a minute. Norm, can you explain to us what exactly the state of play is with Ms. Cook and whether or not she's going to be able to maintain her job? I mean, it does, not to be dramatic here, but it does sound like the potential stability of the global economy sort of hangs in the balance.
Yeah, just something small like that.
I mean, if she is ousted, Trump puts in an appointee, he gets what he wants in terms of lowering interest rates. I mean, it could send the markets into some red zone here.
And Norm, you are one of her lawyers.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much you're allowed to disclose, but we'd love to hear
Disclose
what's
a lot.
going on.
No one's about it.
Jackie, at Democracy Defenders Fund, we have over 125 legal matters, including representing Lisa Cook together with the great folks at Lowell and Associates. I think on that case, because it is active litigation, as much as I love y'all, I'm going to say we filed some powerful complaint, brief. We had a lengthy argument in court last week, and we'll be filing another submission on Tuesday morning. And I'm going to rest on those arguments and the papers.
But in terms of you having the ability to clear state the facts, clear the record, did she commit mortgage fraud as the Trump administration is alleging?
I'm just going to stick with what we've said in argument and what we've said in the papers. Keep a sharp eye out. Tuesday morning, we'll have another very hard-hitting filing for you.
You should bring us the news here first. But I also, Joyce, there was another thing that happened this week when it comes to the rule of law, and that was that federal judge Gia Cobb ruled that the Trump administration cannot use expedited removal of undocumented immigrants in the way that they wanted to, which would allow them to fast track the deportation process. And expedited removal, meaning that they wouldn't have to have a hearing, is why the administration wanted to do that. And Judge Gia Cobb in her ruling said that, quote, the government makes a truly startling argument that those who entered the country illegally are entitled to no process under the Fifth Amendment, but instead must accept whatever grace Congress affords them. Were that right, not only non-citizens, but everyone would be at risk. Fortunately, that is not the law. When you're looking at this ruling, Joyce, what exactly do you think this means for the future of due process in the country?
Well, this is a case, pardon me, this is a case that's incredibly important, and it got lost a little bit in the press of news this week. You know, for decades, people who arrive at the border without documentation can be summarily returned to their point of origin. That's the way that process has worked. The Trump administration is trying to expand that sort of expedited removal and make it happen further in from the border, often with people who have been here, in their words, people who can't prove that they've been here for more than 2 years. And of course, that proof can be very difficult if you're here without documentation. So this is part of their effort to ramp up their statistics so that they can claim political success. But the impact, and this is what Judge Cobb wrote so eloquently about, is it puts all of us at risk. We've seen this in some of the earlier deportation roundups. They pick folks up. They're not careful to check whether they're American citizens or not, whether they're green card holders or not, and they deport people with little or no recourse. That means that a denial of due process to people who don't have documented immigration status denies all of our due process potentially, and this case is definitely one to watch.
Miles, I want to throw up this retruth that Trump did. It says, the world will soon understand nothing can stop what's coming. It has Q+ on his hand. I think assume that's a nod to the QAnon conspiracy theory. It doesn't seem like he created this. Maybe he did, but this is, a retruth. What does it say that the president does this? It feels like sometimes that he and his team want us all to freak out about it. But then with all of the actions that are happening, it's hard to not see this as part of a strategy.
Well, I think we can safely assume we're not going to see the administration moderate anytime soon. I think anyone who had on their bingo card that Donald Trump was going to tack towards the center and be a unifier is going to lose that game of bingo. So, look, I mean, a lot of times when he does things like this on social media, it's bluster. And yet there are certainly a lot of very shocking policy decisions in the pipeline. And you've seen other Trump allies in recent days post similar things. Laura Loomer, a few days ago, posted something very similar, warning about what was coming. In that case, making reference to journalists who are trying to protect their sources. And I've been saying for a while now that it's likely going to happen that we see the Trump administration going after journalists, going after their sources, and threatening them, that if they don't give up those sources in news stories that were damaging to the president, that they'll try to throw them in jail. And they're going to try to open up Espionage Act cases over this. I mean, that's my assessment, and I think it's probably going to bear out. But, look, you have to look no further than Chicago to see how dramatic that this could get. I mean, Eugene, we've talked about this almost every Sunday the past few weeks, but it seems like every time I come on and join you guys, there's a new city that the United States military is planning to head to under Donald Trump. Now, it's not totally clear yet that the military is going to go to Chicago. It doesn't escape my imagination that they're going to deploy the National Guard. But what you will hear this week is people talking more about the Insurrection Act, because Chicago is going to be the first place where we really see an initial resistance to boots on the ground. And that's the Trump card, so to speak, that Donald Trump and Stephen Miller have hinted at for years, is using the Insurrection Act to allow the military to enforce the laws in Chicago and depriving those local leaders of any say whatsoever. Whether or not they do that this week remains to be seen, but that conversation is going to start again this week in earnest.